We went back to my sister's house and began making arrangements for us to stay. But later that afternoon, the seizures returned, and my body began to be paralyzed on the left side. They rushed me back to Mayo, and they directly admitted me to the hospital. Here I began countless tests and scans to determine what was going on in my brain. A computer-guided biopsy of my brain right here. A bone marrow biopsy in my hips. The blood test, the works, scans. Finally, this nice young doctor by the name of Dr. Ball came into our room. He was my brain surgeon. He took a chair from the closet, and he came and he sat down next to my bed. I smiled. I really liked him. He was really nice. And I thanked him for coming to visit us. But he, like my previous doctor, just had this heavy heart. He said, "Mrs. Kesselholm, I wish I could tell you that this was something different. I wish I could say that it was cystic fibrosis or some kind of infection. But this is the worst possible news that I could give you. You have CNS Non-Hodgskins large B-cell lymphoma, a rare aggressive blood cancer usually found in old men. Normally we have regimented treatment for this type of cancer, but since you're pregnant, this complicates your treatment tremendously." It's true. I was 22 weeks pregnant with my third daughter. The winds of storm were in full force now. They had our full attention. We thought we would never see the sun again. What we learned about my diagnosis was very little. We didn't really know. We didn't really want to know. But they did tell us some. It grows, it hides, it can't be surgically removed, and the chemo that's used to kill it is strong enough to penetrate your blood-brain barrier, which is meant to protect your brain. There are no case studies of women who were pregnant and young with this kind of cancer. No baby has ever been through the doses of chemo that the doctors are recommending. The very drug that's used to treat my cancer is also used to abort babies in their first trimester. So this was the dilemma. And that was the talk of Mayo in those days. But the doctors weren't just talking, they were yelling. There was the meeting of the minds: neurology, hematology, radiology, obstetrics, oncology. The best doctors in the world, over 20 specialists in each of the areas, sat together to discuss my case. My brother-in-law, the neurologist, sat in on the meeting, which is not uncommon for him, but he had never seen a meeting like this before. There was fighting, emotion, yelling, arguing, with no agreement in the end for treatment. So they wanted us to decide. I'm glad you laughed, because isn't that ridiculous? So they came in one at a time, and what made it worse was often they were crying. And they would ask us, "Who do you want to live? Mom or baby?" And I would just shake my head like, "That's not a question. You can't decide that." I remember each person so clearly. An OB doctor from England, he came in several times. He would sit by my side or sometimes across the room, and he would always be wringing his hands or just staring at the floor. He gave us different statistics and probable scenarios, but in the end, he put his hand on my arm and he begged me. He said, "Please end your pregnancy. If you were my wife, I would choose you over the baby. You have other children who need a mom, and a husband that needs a wife." My husband, holding my hand, would be in tears as the doctors talked with us. My children's faces would flash through my mind. Who will be their mom if I'm gone? Who will braid their hair? Who will snuggle them at night? And what about this new baby? I can't abandon her. She has a whole life to live yet. What would have happened if this would have happened during my pregnancy with my other girls? I can't imagine life without Ava and Maren. I want to meet this little girl who's growing beside me. So then there was a preemie specialist who came to our room who was so stressed out. He was sweating. And I just shook my head like, wow. When we would ask him questions about babies that were born at 24 weeks, he would just get this horrible look on his face. And then he kept getting paged. And it stressed him out even more to the point of anger. He was just right at the edge of his emotions. He advised us, like the others, to end our pregnancy. He said that the list of problems that the baby would face would be insurmountable. The best case scenario is that she would be handicapped in some way, either physically, cognitively, or both, if she even lives. Then there was a neurologist suggesting that we could keep the baby by doing whole brain radiation. Since it would be aimed at my head, there would be little to no effect on her. But the effects on me could be tremendous. Memory loss, personality change, unable to care for my children again, or work. It hardly seemed like something that I could voluntarily inflict on myself. In the end, the overwhelming majority said over and over, you're young. You have your whole life ahead of you. You need to choose yourself. There are no studies of pregnant women or their babies going through this. You need to end your pregnancy so that you can survive.